Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica, for sharing that video. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Leah. I use she, her pronouns, and thank you so much for tuning into today's DiverseU sessions. If you have any questions during Phyllis's presentation, be sure to send them directly to me in the chat. You can find me listed under moderator, and then I'll let Phyllis take it away from here.
Thank you, Leah, and thank you, Jessica, for setting up this session. My name is Phyllis Ngai. I am the Director of International Development Studies Program, IDS in short, which includes a minor, a graduate certificate, and a Peace Corps preparation certificate program. The co-facilitators today are 5 IDS and Peace Corps prep students. I want to introduce them to you. When I introduce you, you might just wave. You might want to turn on your camera so that people can see your face. Elizabeth Williams, Communication Studies major, Business and IDS minor. Jessica Pence, Psychology major and IDS minor. Seth Carmichael, Political Science major and IDS minor. Morgan McKenzie, Biology major and Wildlife Biology and IDS minor. Keegan Nashan, graduate student in Political Science and Peace Corps prep certificates program graduate. Well, thank you everyone for attending this session. I'm so glad to see you all here. Your presence in this session tells me that you care about the world. You care about contributing to solving global problems. You care about serving the underserved, the marginalized, and the disadvantaged. And you want to make a difference, don't you? Well, the world continues to confront daunting challenges. COVID-19 has exacerbated nearly every global challenge facing the world. Let me share my screen with you for a little while. This page captures some of the key global challenges. Poverty. As of 2019, 6.2% of the global population live in poverty. In 2020, 71 million people are pushed in extreme poverty. Hunger. As of 2018, 26% of the world population are affected by moderate or severe food insecurity. The pandemic is an additional threat to food systems. Health disparity. Less than half of the global population is covered by essential health services as of 2017. Healthcare disruptions caused by the pandemic could reverse decades of improvements in child health, maternal health, HIV, and so on and so forth. Education disparity. Over 200 million children will still be out of school in year 2030. Because of COVID, 90% of all students around the world are out of school, reversing years of progress in education. Gender inequality. Women spend about 3 times as many hours in unpaid domestic and care work as men. Cases of domestic violence have increased by 30% since the onset of the pandemic. Climate change. Climate change continues to exacerbate the frequency and severity of natural disasters, which affected 39 million people as of 2018. Water and sanitation. 2.2 million people lack safely managed drinking water as of 2017. 4.2 billion people lack safely managed sanitation. 3 billion people worldwide lack basic hand washing facilities at home, which is the most effective way for COVID prevention. Disruption of ecosystem. 2 billion hectares of land on Earth are degraded, affecting some 3.2 billion people, driving species to extinction, intensifying climate change. Over 31,000 species are threatened with extinction. And as all of you know, wildlife trafficking disrupt ecosystem and contribute to the spread of infectious disease, including COVID-19. So there are a number of other global challenges on this page and beyond. Today, I would like to invite you to go beyond becoming more aware of these global challenges. Let's start talking about how each of us can contribute to solving some of these global problems. So this session is not a lecture, so I'm going to stop talking pretty soon. And it's for you to engage in conversations about the global problems that bother you the most or the issues that are dear to your heart. This session provides an opportunity for you to share your perspective, your passion, your ideas, while listening to others' insights, questions, and suggestions. Through conversations, we can start tackling the global challenges in big and small ways. Imagine the outcomes and the impacts if each of us in this session, each of us at each of us in Montana, each of us in the United States, and each of us in the world will take a step toward solving a global problem tomorrow. I want to challenge you to do that. Today, I would like to invite each of you before you leave this session to make a commitment to your group to taking at least one, what I call SDS. What do you think that is? Small, doable step immediately after this session to contribute to solving a global problem. Would you be willing to do that? Don't leave now. I know it's a tall order. Stay there. Just SDS, small, doable step. So let's get into small groups, start the conversation. You will be invited to a bigger room. Near our moderator already have the group set up. So when you see the invite to the bigger room, just click yes, and each room will be led by one of our IDS facilitators. So enjoy the conversation, and I will bring everyone back together, and the facilitators will each share a couple of their favorites SDS, small, doable steps. All right, I'll let you get into group now. Thanks, Leah.
Hi, guys. How are we doing today?
Doing well, thank you. How are
Good.
you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Well, as I say, I'm your facilitator today. My name is Elizabeth Williams. I'm an IDS minor with a communications major and also 2 other minors, so a little extra, but we're working on it. So my job today is that we're going to go through a couple of questions. I have 6 questions for you guys. It's more of a discussion, super laid back, just kind of getting some ideas out there about some global change that we would like to see and some things that we would like to happen in either a small community or on a global scale. Do we have any questions starting off about the structure of what we're going to be doing right now? No? Okay, sweet. So I'll just jump right in. We'll go right to the first question. So this one, really easy. So which global challenges do you guys each think is a top priority required in the most urgent action? So we talked a little bit about in the introduction, but you can go off of anything you think is a global challenge that you would like to think is like a big priority and that we need to start tackling right away. I'll let you guys each discuss one. Hadley, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
I guess it's hard for me to identify just one because I think so many of them are so interconnected.
Mhm.
And like the action that we take in one place could have positive or negative effects for different areas.
Yeah.
But if I guess if I had to choose a starting place as far as urgency goes, action towards eradicating climate change would probably be where I start, because climate change has such big implications for like food availability globally, and also just availability of like safe living spaces for people all around the world. And then also obviously for just like the future of our existence as humans. It's kind of like a huge existential threat. So I guess that's where I'd start.
Yeah.
But that's also not the area that I'm the most familiar with. Like I'm not really a science person. So I'd probably like approach it from a different angle. I'm not sure exactly what steps we need to take, but that feels like the most urgent one.
Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, what one do you think you're most qualified to look into?
I don't know. I am excited and interested about working with like refugee populations and issues of forced migration. Particularly with our large refugee population in Missoula, it feels really close to home. And like Phyllis said, like a small doable step. That's something that we already have really good infrastructure in our local community, even though we live in a rural place. There are really strong like change makers in our community who are working on those issues. And that's something that's exciting and inspiring for me.
Perfect. Well, awesome. That's a good start. Jessica, do you have a topic that you're most passionate about global change?
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry about it. You're good.
So I'm staff at the University Center, and I'm like hosting the session while home with my 2 children, and then and then also like working on the side too.
Yeah, no worries.
But I will try and pop in, and I'll just like jump in if I can, if that's okay.
Yeah. No, that's totally fine. Totally okay. Let me know.
And here's my face. So that's what I look like.
Hello. No worries. Totally understand. If you feel
Crazy
like
times of COVID.
I know, right? It's such a big adaptation. No worries at all. If you're feeling like you have something to add, or if you want to jump in on one of the questions or comment, you're more than welcome to just start popping on. Yeah, of course. No
I really
worries.
appreciate you understanding my situation.
I mean, we're all in different situations. It's a weird time right now.
Yeah.
No worries.
Okay.
Just jump on whenever you want.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
We can chat together. That works.
Yes. All right, Hadley. So I totally agree. So coming in here, I was getting ready for facilitating. I was really thinking about all the global challenges that we learned about in the IDS minor and ways to tackle them and all that kind of stuff. But looking through all of them, I really come down to, I'm also very passionate about climate change. I think it is really hugely needs to be considered, and it needs to have people need to start rallying and having an impact, even on a small, like the SDS that we were talking about, we're gonna talk about later, about little things that we can do to make a change now. But I think climate change is a really big overall issue that impacts everyone and impacts everyone in the world. So I think it is an issue that can be, even if it's from you in your little backyard, you can change globally. So I also am very passionate about climate change. And it's funny that you talked about refugees. I actually tutored some refugees last year because I am a Chinese minor. So I helped some little Chinese kids teach English and all that kind of stuff. So
Awesome.
yeah, so I mean, if you want, I have some contacts. If you're really interested in all that kind of stuff, I can reach out. And
yeah, that's so nice. I actually, I work with a family that's from the Congo.
Yay!
So I tutor, 3 little girls. They've been here for 2 years. So that's, I love that it's, I love that population is in Missoula.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank
Well, yeah, so looks like we have some of the same interests, which is great. But also I'm super passionate about discrimination as well. I think it impacts a lot of my friends and it impacts like our community more than you would think. Because we are a small town in Missoula, Montana, so not a lot of people think about it as much because we are less diverse than bigger cities, but we still have all those major issues that are happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, yeah, like discrimination and racism in particular, I think like manifests obviously in Montana in a lot of the same ways as it does nationally, but also kind of in different ways because of the nature of our diversity and like our indigenous population, which I grew up in Montana, and I don't think that when I was young I learned to name treatment, like poor treatment of indigenous people. I didn't learn to name that as racism because in my head, like racism was all about like Black people and like the civil rights movement. And yeah, anyway, so I totally agree. Yes.
Awesome. All right. No, totally good. I liked all that. So let's go on to question 2. These ones, the next couple questions are more just conversation starters. So you can branch off to whatever. That was just kind of get a baseline to welcome you in. But for question 2, I have what can be done individually in everyday life to help solve each of the global problems group members mentioned. So we talked about, let's just go off of the 3 that we were talking about. So discrimination, refugees, and climate change. Let's try incorporating all of those because we are such a small group. And I think we have the time anyways. So let's use that time to try to tackle these 3. Obviously, we're not going to solve all the world problems in 40 minutes, but I think it would be nice to get us maybe as a group comfortable to make that one more step that we all are just wanting to try. So what do you think you can do individually in everyday life to help solve this global issue of, let's start with climate change?
We tried to stop using like single-use plastic in our house, which felt like a small doable step. And Missoula is also great because we have a lot of grocery stores that have bulk items, so it makes it easier to like refill your soap and shampoo and stuff like that. So that's a small thing. I know that reducing the amount of meat that you eat can have a really big impact for an individual, just for the amount of like water and even like food resources that are given to raising livestock. That's still something I'm working on, but so I guess, yeah, climate change, I feel there are a lot of small steps that individuals can take kind of on like a personal decision-making level. But I don't know that we have the, I think we need to incentivize those steps more. And I think that's where it gets to like a policy level. And obviously we need to elect leaders who acknowledge that climate change is a problem. And yeah, I mean, I think there are like bigger steps that are more on a policy level. But I think it would need to start moving really quickly, both on individual and like national policy making.
Yeah. No, that's great. I totally agree. The single-use plastics, we also did that in my house. I've also been finding products, more local products to reduce waste of transportation and like, you know, Amazon boxes, you know, that can't be too great for the environment, but we do recycle all of our cardboard boxes, and my sister has like a tin and like a regular aluminum basket that we have in our house. But I find like single use, I find I use like makeup wipes a lot and like all that kind of stuff. So I found these single use bamboo, which is really nice. And they work for like makeup wipes, they work for like getting nail polish off, just those like little towels that you always use. And so
yeah, like cotton, like
yeah,
every day.
yeah, and bamboo is supposed to be super good for like your skin and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's kind of a win-win, and you just put them in the washing machine when you wash your clothes. And they're up to like 1,000 uses, I think it said. So I mean, it's huge, and I've never used anything of like cotton balls or cotton swabs, anything like that. So that's kind of a thing I have done to individually every day tackle the issue of climate change. But I also am going to try to ride my bike more. I know it's kind of contradictory with the snow we just got, but I just moved to a place where it's not up the South Hills, so it's not like I don't have to convince myself to bike up a hill that big. It's just flat ground, really convincing. Especially with COVID restrictions, there's not, I'm not going as many places as I usually go. Like my friend lives around the corner. I should just take a walk instead of taking my car.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is you can do every day. I walk to the grocery store now. I don't drive my car. I buy like the bags that you can do instead of using the plastic ones. Just all those little basic things that I think in Missoula, anyways, of what I've noticed, more and more people are starting to commit to those small steps. But I also agree we need more of a policy change, whether that be like a University of Montana policy where they have recycling bins instead of trash cans around campus. I think that would be huge. I've seen it done in schools other places around the world. And I think we can implement that in the University of Montana and it'd be beneficial, not just a trash can and then like certain areas have recycling, but everywhere there's a trash can, there should also be a recycling bin right next to it.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
We're in 2020. Like, let's go. So that's just something I'm jumping into the small steps, but I want to bring that to Botner's attention that I think that'd be a great way just to make the University of Montana more clean. Because I know we are having that clean initiative by 2023. I don't remember what year, but they did commit to that. So that could be a way that we can start doing it so people can see the change happening. Maybe they'll encourage them
Like more
to do
visible.
something as well. Yeah. Because I feel like if you do more behind the door policies and all that kind of stuff to like, maybe they don't order as much paper, I don't know what they're doing. But if they make it more visual, like those recycling cans, it can get people more inspired and to do things at home as well. Be like, oh, it's actually not that hard.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. Yeah, the visibility of recycling bins.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know Eva Rock? She is a sustainability coordinator at UM, and she's so cool. So I'm a staff member in the provost's office. So she works right across the hall from me.
Yeah.
And she's always looking, especially for students who want to get like more engaged on the issue. You should just mention recycling bins to her. She's really cool. Anyway.
Okay. What's her name again? Sorry.
It's Eva, EVA. And then her last name is Rock, just Rock with an E on the end.
Perfect.
Yeah, she's great.
All right. Well, good. Do you have anything else to add on the climate change one?
No, I'm gonna Google the bamboo wipes that you mentioned.
They're pretty neat.
Yeah.
I convinced my sister. My sister also got them after I bought them. She was jealous. She's like, I need them too.
Yeah, that's a really good gift idea too.
Yeah.
My family for Christmas last year, I did little things like that.
Yeah, I think also, like that brings up a good point. Gifting. I feel like a lot of people don't know what's out there. So if you do know what's out there, fantastic gift. Like I'll give them a little green, clean little energy basket for like Christmas or something instead of 10,000 pounds of candy,
Right.
which everyone needs. Yeah, everyone needs that 10 pounds of candy, but
You get the bulk ones without wrappers or something.
Yeah. So do you have any comments about things that you've done individually to help, like maybe let's combine refugees and discrimination, because I feel like that they kind of go hand in hand.
That one like feels just really big and tough.
It is, yeah.
And I think it's easy to feel like it's hard to, sorry, kitchen sounds. I think it's easy to feel like it's hard to make a change because we kind of like tell the story about Montana that we're small and rural and we're not that like globally connected. but that's why I'm just like really excited about the work that Soft Landing does. And like the International Rescue Committee, we have a chapter of in Missoula. Yeah, so I guess like working with the little family that I work with feels like a way to feel closer to that issue, but also for me to just learn about what a life experience as someone who's a refugee. Like, it's cool to be able to talk to the girls about their experience, like moving across the world, and yeah. And I guess like with issues of discrimination, that feels very daunting and difficult.
Especially in today's climate. Yeah, you don't have to say anything. You don't feel comfortable. Obviously, I'm not gonna sit here and force you to talk.
Like, I don't know if I feel like I want to take a listening posture when it comes to issues of racism in America right now. I don't feel like I have solid ground to stand on to talk about it. Yeah, I'm really open to listening and learning.
Which is a good step to take. Obviously, we shouldn't be putting ourselves into shoes and saying we know what's best, because obviously I don't know your guys' background, but I am just white, so I have no way of knowing any of their challenges, no way of any of that. But I still want to understand, and I want to learn, and I want to support. I want to lift their voices up and keep my voice low, is another way of putting it. Hi, Jessica.
Hi.
Do you have something to add?
I kind of came in halfway through. I didn't really hear the clear question, but I did start. I mean, I'm gathering what the topic is.
Yeah. So we were talking about individual everyday things that you can do to help solve some of the issues that we talked about. So we decided to focus on climate change and refugees and discrimination.
Just those three, huh?
Yeah, just those three. Yeah, nothing major.
Issues.
But if you have anything to add about any little things that you do throughout the day, or that you try to be either climate conscious or to deal with the big issues of refugees and discrimination. Once again, I was just telling Hadley that you don't have to say anything you don't feel comfortable. Obviously, you don't have to talk at all if you don't want to, but if you want to share something to the group, you're obviously more than welcome.
I don't know if I guess specifically focusing on refugees, if there's anything I do to help, but what I do try to do is educate myself and not just like turn my eyes from it, because it makes me so sad that like that's naturally, as a human, what I want to do is I want to just be like, oh, I want to hide that from my day because I don't want to be depressed about it. But for a while I was following, it was like an Instagram account that was like photographing refugee camps. And like, so I'm a mom of two. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 4-month-old. And the pictures of like the kids living in the camps, just like, obviously it's not great and it's super, super sad. So I try and stay in the mentality of like not taking my life for granted. And if an opportunity ever did arise like locally for me to help out with that, to not, to seriously consider it. And so that's something like I try not to like, I'm not gonna just live in my own little safe pocket of the world and not think about what other people are going through, and like realize that it's not all like Missoula, Montana, and that kind of thing. And then in regards to climate, I do my own little efforts here at home. My husband does not care at all. Like sometimes I have to battle him to get like, I'm like, I'm going to recycle cardboard. Like, that's just the one thing I'm going to do. I'm going to recycle cardboard. And he's like, yeah, me too. I'm going to throw it in the trash. And so there was like a couple of times he'd like throw it in the garbage when I'd like start like stashing away my little stack of, so he got chewed out for that. And he like thinks it's funny to antagonize me. But I've started like, I recycle plastics 1 and 2 and like my cardboard and my tin cans and like everything that, Missoula will take. And, you know, I try and be conscious about like when I'm buying the kids toys, like, could I get them something out of recycled plastic? Could I get them something wooden, you know, and, or like give away our toys to another kid so they get used again. And, it's fine. And for a while, a couple years ago, so I've been in this house 3 years this month. And when we first bought it, I was like, I really want to get a good cleaning system for the house. Like, I want to get a new mop and get a new broom. And like, when I take on new things like that and invest in them, I have to like research them like painfully, you know? And so I actually got into Norwex. I don't know if you guys know what Norwex is.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't actively sell it. I just like, once I met my goal and I got my kit for free, then I was like, cool, you know? But it's like awesome. It's just like these cloths with microfibers and silver in them. And so it's like eliminating using paper towels and like plastics, and like it's just like this elimination system, and it's really, really cool. And they're actually really good cleaning cloths too. Like they can get a ton of stuff out of different, I mean, it's a whole line. You guys will have to look up Norwex and email me if you want information. But I really did it so I could get the kit for free. And I did a bunch of parties, sold a bunch of stuff, and then whoop, dropped off the face of the planet.
Nice.
But I love that kind of stuff because it makes it like, so just me, I can make a little difference and not contribute like more chemicals into the world and use more plastics. And don't get me wrong, I am one half of a married couple, and the other person is like, I love pine sol and bleach and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So, and especially right now, Lysol, you know, is being used so heavily. I'm like, it doesn't kill coronavirus. Like, anyways. But so that's my little part of climate. And then with racism, obviously, I just don't want to be a crappy person, and I want to raise good little humans who like break that cycle. And so I always say that I'm going to start it at home. And that's what I can do to contribute. And then obviously be loving to anybody I come across and listen to what they're going through.
Yeah. Good. Very good, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the great little steps that we take. Oh, sorry, Hadley.
No, can I just, Jessica, ask you super quickly? The recycling place we go to does not take plastics, and like, where do I go to recycle plastic?
So, you know what you should do? There's a website called Zero Waste Missoula.
Okay.
And Eva Rock gave it to me in one of her professional developments. And it's like 0 by 50 Missoula, because they pledged to doing it's 0 by 50 Missoula.com. And they pledged to doing like no waste or 0 waste by 2050 was like the Missoula city's goal or something like that. And you can go on there and say, where can I recycle this? And it's like a drop down, and you can like select what you're trying to recycle, and it tells you where you can go, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. So awesome.
Thank you. And that's what I wanted to do. I'm like, I would start recycling that stuff, but I also live out in Frenchtown, so there's no curbside pickup. There's nothing out here. But I at least can do plastics 1 and 2 at the Republic on Broadway, the one that's like right behind Costco. And you just drive in anytime, day or night, because I think it's open all the time, because it's just like a drive-in, and you can do plastic 1 and 2, aluminum, tin, flat cardboard, newspaper, maybe something else. But yeah, it's awesome. You can just take it in there and drop it off, and then if you want to do your bigger cardboard drop off at
was that like Pacific Source?
Thank you. Yep. It's right around the corner. It's right around the corner, so you can do both.
This is great to know. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. I know. I'm always emailing Eva, because she's like, any day, I bet you they're going to stop taking our plastic, because for a while it was just like sitting on. I'm looking at you, Elizabeth. I don't know if you can tell I'm looking at you. But I heard that it was just like sitting on big cargo trailers in Washington, because that's where like our outsource goes. But like China has stopped taking our plastics. So then it's all like backing up here. But so far they're still taking plastics 1 and 2. So.
Okay. Well, that's really good to know.
Yeah.
Um,
Sharing
nice
is
outreach. So from going from individually, we're now going to go, the next question is, how do we collectively as a group, do you think that we can make a change in these areas? You can either take the group as us three right here, or you can take the group as the University of Montana, or if you want to say the group as this whole city of Missoula. What do you think would be the next step that we should take collectively to make a change?
Well, I think the 0 by 50 is a great example of how like the community is trying to do it Missoula wise. So if like, and there's plenty of volunteer opportunities. So maybe like going to your Missoula Chamber resource and being like, what volunteer things are open for like Missoula Mud and like all the different nonprofits. Like you can very easily jump in with a nonprofit. And then the university obviously has awesome initiatives and has made huge strides as far as sustainability. So just being like, hey, how can we help you guys? How can we get involved? But I think also like in your smaller groups, it's also just changing the narrative, even in a small conversation, towards the better, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think like like DiverseU and sessions like this are such a good starting point because a lot of these topics are tough to talk about, especially with people that you don't know. Like they said in the ground rules, it's like a vulnerable place to go to. So I think the more we can talk about these big issues, especially with people that we aren't super comfortable or familiar with, I know for me personally that just helps so much. And even if it's scary, I like try to push myself to be able to address issues. And I think that's particularly relevant for issues around racism. Also, as a white person, I know that I have a place of privilege to be able to speak from and to use that place, to use my privilege to call things out and hopefully in a productive way and to start conversations where they need to happen and to listen to people of color, to hear what the solutions that they believe in are, and then to promote those solutions. I think as a community, conversation and like frank dialogue is a good way to get that started.
Yeah. No, totally agree with both of you guys. Community service is a huge one. I think that the Missoula 50, the Zero Waste by 50 is a great initiative that has come out in the last couple of years. And I think just now, just by Jessica bringing it all to our attention about even just those drop boxes of where to recycle, we're able to maybe make that one of our SDSs, our small steps to be able to try to strive to find those places to actually, instead of looking for convenience, looking for what actually is happening and working in the Missoula community. And with the top conversation, I agree that DiverseU is a great platform. We usually do talk with heavy topics. That's kind of the best part about DiverseU, in my opinion, and it gets people out of their comfort zones to talk about issues that need to be brought into light, need to be talked about. So this is why we decided to make this platform where we give people voices and not just us talking at you and you listening and jotting notes. This is more of a collaborative form of being able to talk about these issues that are important in not only Missoula, but around the world. I do totally agree that with racism and discrimination, that using the white privilege that we do have, and we have a lot of it, to call out other people and to bring it to light, to have a constructive conversation. So that doesn't mean yelling at them and, screaming at them doesn't get anybody anywhere new. If you just bring them down all the time, you need to have an actual constructive conversation and bring to light why their actions are wrong, through either education or putting them in the other person's shoes. Because especially right now in this day and age with all the topics and the issues that are coming to light, or not to light, but are media broadcasted, and all the hot topics I feel like are being discussed in Montana, in the US in general, but they are only shining on a whole spectrum of this way and a whole spectrum of this way, and we need to kind of recognize that there are also other people that aren't totally this and totally that. Everyone is diverse. DiverseU, haha, see what I did there? But so yeah, great topic, great way to think about collectively how we can make a change. Hadley and Jessica, great job. So let's go to question 4. So what can be done transitionally to help solve each of the global problems group members mentioned? So
Could you say that one more time, Elizabeth?
yeah, sorry. Let me know if I'm talking too fast. I've been told I talk really fast.
No, not at all. I just had noise on my end. Don't worry about it.
No worries. So what can be done transnationally to help solve each of the global problems group members mentioned? So we went through the individual, and then we went through the collectively, and now we're talking about nationally. So big picture. So we went through what you do every day to what you can do like in your small groups of families or friends, or as us right now, or as a university, and now we're talking about what do you think needs to be changed transnationally? So what needs to be done on a big scale, which a lot of things could be mentioned in this one. But if you talk about policies, maybe try to think of maybe a policy, come up with one instead of just saying we need new policies, which is totally right, totally true. But what do you think actually needs to start happening nationally to get through these global challenges? I'll give you some time to think, and anyone who wants to jump on first.
Hadley, after you.
Once again, we're not asking you to solve all the problems in the world. This is just to get us talking about some things and some situations that we think we can do together.
Well, I'm actually helping get Model UN up and going. They start on, I think their conference is virtual November 13th. So it's like really funny. I'm like, can I answer this for you after I watch all the young minds of America gather and solve our problems?
Oh, I loved Model U when I did that in high school.
Oh,
Actually.
you did? It seems
Yeah.
so cool. I wish my high school had it.
Yeah, I randomly joined my senior year and it was a blast. So that's
yeah.
awesome. I was part of that.
That's really awesome that you were brave enough to just jump in and do it.
Thanks. Hadley, were you going to start saying something?
Yeah, I think like Model UN is a really good example as a way of, because I think when I feel intimidated by global challenges, it helps me to think about how even at the transnational level, we're still talking about people, and like even people who are in charge of big organizations and forces like the UN, they're still like human people who have human minds and capability of action. So bringing the national to the local, I think, is just a good way to be able to wrap your mind about and like feel confident that we actually can make a change transnationally. So Model UN is a really good way of doing that, of giving young people agency and helping them feel like they can make a difference. I mean, when it comes to climate change, I just feel like there are so many things that are kind of in the works right now, and I would like to see the US become a part of those efforts again. And I guess that's what I'll say for now. Yeah.
That was a great
good. Yeah.
I guess one thing I was thinking of, just like as a whole, even on all 3 of those topics, I've done more international travel lately, and we are hoping we're going to go to Grand Cayman in January, but it just depends on if they accept international travel and how things happen with COVID. We're guessing we're not going, but we're hoping. But I've been following, like, getting their newsletter to just like keep track of what they are doing. And it's just like really interesting to watch another country and how they handle things. And I've been thinking a lot lately, like whenever I hear good things about different policies in like Denmark or Sweden or France, or, I'm like, it would not hurt us to like maybe try and do like a, hey, for this amount of time, let's try out a different country's way of handling things and see how it affects things, even if it's just like a sample trial. Like I don't feel like the US has followed other countries' examples very much, or like maybe they don't want to, don't have any interest in it. I'm not sure. But it's like something like, maybe we should try and see what's working for other countries and see if it would work better for us and fix some of our problems, you know?
Yeah, no, totally. That was really brought to my attention. So I also have traveled internationally a couple of times. I studied abroad in some places in Asia. And I saw their ways of handling the coronavirus compared to our handlings of the coronavirus. And it's just such a drastic difference and change that I was hurt, and not hurt, but like questioning why we weren't trying some of these other ways that have proven to work in multiple other countries. But I think that's a little bit of our stubbornness as the United States in general. But no, I totally agree. Those are both great answers of figuring out how to deal with this nationally. That's a big question, big topic, hard one to come up with. But totally agree. I think there are a lot of environmental policies that could come to light, hopefully soon. I know depending on certain happenings could change drastically how the US views climate change in general and how we act into it. But also if those things don't happen, I think we need to keep in mind that as much as a lot of people don't have faith in the government, I believe the people do make the change. If you do rally enough, if you do protest enough, if you do write petitions enough, you could persuade your senator or your governor or something to make that change. So I think a big thing is that not losing hope is a big challenge that I have put myself up to and continue to be. People call me an optimist all the time. They're like, Liz, how are you happy right now? I'm like, you just gotta pray that we're making through it. You know, you gotta keep a positive mind, do your things to make you and your friends and family and your neighbors and everyone else safe. Whether that's educating them on discrimination and all these little things. I think education in schools and the truth about our past as a country, I think that should be a policy to help with discrimination and racism just a little bit. I know it's not going to change everything, but I think having actual classes and actual true history about Black icons, Native American icons, like actually telling what our past was, not, or at least I went to Lolo school when I was little. We had Columbus Day and it was so fun. And all we did was like, we baked cookies and all this kind of stuff. And then as you grow older, you realize, oh, he was a horrible person. He's terrible. Why did we ever celebrate him when I was little? I think you need to, as much as people think kids can't handle that, I think it's important to, maybe not in such a brutal way, but inform them of our mishappenings so they can grow. I think school policy changes of our educational system, excuse me, of what we do and how we change starts with the kids. And you obviously, because you have to help them along. But totally think, oh my goodness. Oh, hello.
This is Riley.
Riley, oh my gosh, adorable. I wouldn't be able to get anything done with that little thing by me.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Sorry, I'll mute now.
No, you're totally good. Well, hello, Riley. Welcome to the conversation. So, I mean, if I would think about anything policy changes, I think schools have a big impact more than we would think when we were younger. So that would be a policy change I would like to strive for. As for climate change, I do think that is more going to be a government standard that we're going to have to strive for to make sure they not only enact the policies, but keep true to them. Not backtracking is a big one that I think happens more than we would like to admit. Awesome. Does anyone have anything else to add to anything about individually, collectively, or nationally with these issues? No? Okay, perfect. So let's go to question 5. And then this one, we're going to have to kind of go a little bit fast. Sorry, we talked a little bit longer than I'm supposed to. At 4:30, we'll start talking about our SDSs and what we think we can do as a small doable systems and steps. So until 4:30, let's do this question 5. So this next one is, what are the connections among the challenges identified by our members and group of what concerned efforts can be made to address the interconnectedness? So what we just talked about, individually, collectively, nationally, all those things, did you guys see like a silver lining in between all of them of what connects all of them that we can maybe do individually to then influence the collectively to influence the nationality?
I think a lot of what we talked about is like awareness and creating a cultural space for conversation and dialogue.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess just like promoting civility, particularly in the US, I just think is so essential. And I think that starts locally. And yeah, I guess it really starts interpersonally. So learning how to talk to people that we don't necessarily agree with, and learning how to come to solutions that will be productive and agreed upon by both sides without sacrificing any of our like core values or the things that we really believe in. Yeah. So I guess conversation and dialogue.
Yeah.
I second that.
You second that? Awesome. I third it. So greatly put, Hadley. Yes, I totally agree. We're talking about awareness and dialogue and communication. Do you guys know any places, or do you guys have any tips of how to get those conversations started? How would you, let's say it's a family member or friend, maybe they don't agree with your views of, maybe Jessica, it's your husband dealing with dealing with climate change and recycling. How would you get the conversation started? Or Hadley, how would you guys get the conversation started to maybe promote the awareness and all that kind of stuff? So this kind of bleeds into the small doable steps. So what are you guys going to take from this conversation that we've had for 45 minutes now, and how are you guys going to take it and implement it into your daily lives? You can think on it. I'm not obviously, but just let me know what you guys think. What are you guys leaning towards implementing in your daily lives?
This is silly, but I have a couple podcasts that I listen to that I feel like just help get me in the headspace, and then help me feel more confident and informed about big issues. So I guess just consuming information and media that is productive, instead of media that is like focused on attacking or promoting division. I feel like I have a couple like podcasts and places that I go to that help me get into the mindset of being a good listener and like forgiving and better at understanding other people's perspectives, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
You should send those to us, Hadley.
Yeah, put them in the group chat.
I'm gonna let this keep playing. I'm sorry to step out, but she needs to eat. That's why she's trying to like eat my face. But I'm gonna let this keep playing, and I'll just pop back in if I can.
Okay, no worries. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
All right. Well, good tips, Hadley. I love the podcast idea of being able to be informed and to get in the right headspace to be able to have those conversations. That's a great way to start them. Do you have any other small doable steps that you're thinking of? For example, from this conversation, I believe one of mine is going to be listening to more podcasts. I don't listen to them much. I'm more of a music lover than a podcast lover, I do admit. But I really want to, I'm very passionate about these topics that we've been talking about, but I feel like I haven't done anything with those passions. So I'm going to try to get more informed. I have a couple of friends and a couple of family members that I'm going to not allow to do some things that I have allowed them to do because I don't like confrontation. I don't like it. I don't know why. Makes me nervous and I just avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
But that is not productive and that is not who I want to be. So I think I'm going to be doing more research on how to have those conversations that are difficult, to how to take the first step and do active listening while communicating and making sure I don't shut down when I do have those conversations. I think that is the major thing for me, just because I am an avoiding conflict person and I have known this for years.
Yeah.
But I think I've had enough and I don't want to be on the sidelines anymore. So I'm going to use the privilege I have to voice my concerns and to lift up those who do need it and who are desperately trying to shout and no one's listening. I will be their megaphone.
I also think that because I totally agree, like conflict is not something that I feel comfortable with because it's really hard and like that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think particularly with issues of like racism and discrimination, I have an uncle who is like not necessarily aligned with me on my beliefs, but I feel like I can relate to him more and get him to start thinking about things in a new way by recommending like movies or TV shows or podcasts that are from like people of color's perspectives, for example. So I kind of think of that as a way of not having to face a conflict directly by myself while also helping him understand other people's perspectives. So I don't know, that just occurred to me as like, I think there's so many great resources, especially right now, like Netflix. And I mean, every platform has like an elevating Black voices section. So yeah, kind of like recommending different perspectives and stories to those people might be a good
Perfect. No, that's awesome. So I just got a 1-minute warning real quick. What's the step that you're going to do right after this to get going and work on these?
Oh my gosh. I actually need to take my recycling tonight. So I guess I was gonna do that anyway, but I am going to go look at that Zero Waste Missoula site and make a better plan for how we can increase our recyclables in our house.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, I like all of those. I'm actually going to do that as well. My sister's going to be super excited that I found these sites. She is way more passionate than I am, but which is a good thing. She balances me out a little bit, but awesome. Well, we're getting the notice to go to the breakout rooms. Thank you so much for joining and communicating today. I hope you took something away and it was nice talking to you guys.
Yeah, it's really nice to talk to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Of course.
Hello, everyone. I think we're all back here. And I want to hear what you came up. So we have a couple minutes for each of the facilitator to share some of the small doable actions, the more doable steps that you came up with your group. I've been going around and trying to challenge some of the groups earlier. I have been sharing with some of the groups that, well, we have been doing education, information sharing, becoming more aware forever. But we have not seen huge changes yet. The global problems, global challenges continue to get worse. And so what did you come up that are beyond becoming more aware, become more educated, or just give people more information, or educate the other side? Quote unquote, some people, I'm going to go educate the quote unquote conservative, but that's like the other side. So I want to hear from each of the facilitator. Keegan, would you go first and share a few small doable steps
Absolutely.
that you find inspiring? And
Thank you. Yeah, I think that we had a good conversation. We talked about climate change, poverty and hunger, human migration and displacement, and then racism. So some of our small doable steps for climate change were making sure that you can find and use reusable bags and products, and then using public transportation as much as possible. When we were talking about poverty and hunger on the individual level, trying to just limit your personal food waste as much as possible, and then organizing or contributing to food drives that are held locally. And I know this maybe sort of drifts into the education bit, but know where your food comes from. So understand what path that food took to get to your table, and try and reduce carbon emissions as much as possible when you're making those kinds of food choices. Then for human migration and displacement, I think, write letters, call representatives, volunteer locally at South Landing or IRC were our little doable goals, particularly the letters and advocating to our calls to representatives. And then finally, under racism, we talked a lot about sort of expanding your own personal bubble. So trying to find books written from people of different life experiences than you and consume that kind of information in a different light, and sort of breaking up that canon, I guess, of literature and of TV hegemony as well. So those were some of the small doable things that we talked about during our time.
I would like to ask everyone here, who would be willing to commit to at least one of those suggestions that Keegan just presented? Hey, yay, hey, thank you. Yeah, great. Elizabeth, would you share next?
Yeah, of course. So we talked a lot about climate change, refugees, and racism and diversity. So we came up with a couple of SDSs. So one of them that Hadley had, which was a great one. I think I'm going to start doing this right away. But we talked about how it's hard to confront somebody who has different opposing views as you. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a friend. You don't want to get in a huge conflict with them. So she decided that it would be a great idea to show others that have the opposing view, maybe podcasts, movies, TV shows that are about the people they're discriminating against or have racism towards. There's a lot of new shows on Netflix or on Hulu that are dedicated to this aspect. There's like the Black Lives Matter section, and like even Disney has it. But to show them those diversities and to show them true stories that are happening that are affecting real people is huge. So maybe you can have a conversation after you watch the video, maybe about it, to try to get the conversation started, so you're not just, they don't feel like attacking, like you're just going there and attacking them right away. That's a way she thought it'd be nice to maybe deal with a relative or a family a relative or a friend who doesn't have the same views that you want to maybe have a conversation about racism or diversity. Another one we talked a lot about zerowastemissoula.com. They have a great little section on there that provides little drop boxes of where you can recycle maybe plastics. So I know the recycling plant here in Missoula doesn't have a plastic recycling bin, but you can find where to recycle all of these different materials on that website, and it tells you exactly where to go. So you can actually recycle more than you would think, which is cool. And I'm going to look at to find out what I actually can recycle more than what I am doing now. And then we talked about contacting Eva Rock at the University of Montana. She's in charge of the environmental program over there, and she is great. And we talked about maybe having recycling bins put in the University of Montana next to trash cans to show like a visible change at the University of Montana instead of just a policy change. Yeah, so those are some of the small little steps that we talked about.
Yeah, did your group, were your group willing to commit to at least one of those? Everyone?
Yeah, they all were gonna go look at Zero Waste Missoula to find out new ways to recycle. We talked about Eva Rock a couple of times. They know Jessica and Hadley both know her, so it was great information for me. I actually learned something new. And then we talked about that way of maybe starting the conversation to somebody. Yeah.
So start with friends conversation and start with people on campus. Can the rest try some of those? Yes? Yes? Okay, great. Morgan, would you want to share next?
Yes, I would. My group, we had a great conversation. Maxwell started off by talking about how religion could contribute to a lot of global problems, but climate change in particular. And I think it was just really interesting to see. There's a dog barking in the background, so I'm sorry if that's distracting anyone. But it was just really interesting to see how like things like religion or other big cultural norms that we have in society can affect our environment in ways that we don't understand or we don't recognize. So I thought that was a really cool way to start off. And we continue talking about climate change throughout it. We continue talking about race. We talked a lot about indigenous lands. Morgan was very passionate about being able to reestablish the lands to the people who own them and being able to work with local food sources and being able to work with the land and being able to understand that we are one with the land. I think one of the biggest conclusions that we all came upon was that we want to all continue educating ourselves, but we also want to continue getting involved, and we all want to start taking small steps to understand our privilege, understand where we were born into and what we have, and how we can make people better, because we're all human. And so it's like we always want to choose the human right way, even if it's not the way that you always agree with, but we want to choose a way that benefits society the most, regardless of color of skin. Like, how can we be more united and how can we be one with one another? Because it seems very divided.
Yeah, thank you, Morgan. If you have to say one thing that you ask everyone in this Zoom room to do, what would that be? Say, well, you guys do this. What would that be?
I think one of the best things for me to say, and we talked about in our group session, is do the little things, but also make a big impact. Morgan was like, I want to get out there. I want to do the big things. We need to have the big things. And Nick and Maxwell agreed. I think that is the thing. It's like, do the little things, but take that step if you're ready to take it. That's all I have.
I think she's probably frozen.
Froze. Can you hear
I
it?
can't hear Morgan. Do you guys all hear her?
Yeah.
She freezes up on my screen. Is that true for all of you?
I think you're frozen for all of us, but we can hear you, which is the important part.
Maybe somebody else wants to share what their group talked about.
Sure. I was a facilitator. I don't know if I'm the last one, but my group had a great discussion about climate change, justice, as well as health disparity and poverty. What did we talk about? Let's see. The small doable things we included were volunteering, like at the library, and providing a safe place to shelter and self-educate those in need, and definitely impoverished homeless communities. What else? The curbing of the use of like first world problems, right? If somebody spills their Starbucks, they're like, oh no, that's a first world problem. And that just really rubs me the wrong way, just because that's not very understanding of other cultures and communities. I had one really big commitment that somebody was going to buy a hydro flask and invest in sustainable items. So that was a big one to curb climate change. I saw a couple hydro flasks go up. And one of our last ones was voting to protect rights and provide fair justice. And you really have to do your own research, right? Self-educate, but we're at that stage that we can apply it to real life now. So understanding who you're voting in really makes an impact. And I don't know if I would, impose that upon everybody, hey, you need to self-educate, but, self-education is key. All right, I think that's it.
Great. I think Phyllis is trying to hop back on just to kind of close up this session. She just sent me a quick email and I just replied. So hopefully she'll be back super fast to close this up for today.
Okay, I was also one of the facilitators, and I think everyone kind of mentioned like getting involved or educating yourself. And in our group, we talked about kind of like wildlife conservation, we talked about racism, we talked about climate change, and I think one of the big things that we kind of discussed as part of our like small actions was when getting involved. I think one of our group members was talking about how can I get involved when I may not be on like social media, where a lot of those information has kind of turned, especially now during the pandemic. And so I think one of the solutions that I kind of like put out there was like to look into like the student-led groups that are here on campus, whether it's the culture groups or like student involvement network. I think they're all in the university center, in the Brandt Center. And I think those groups is great because it brings in different students with different majors and different minors into a space to where that you can kind of have this community. And I think that also opens up communication towards certain global problems that you want to address, or kind of that initiative of taking action. And I think that was like one of the great things that we talked about. We also talked about how in terms of finding out more and educating yourself, if you find like a friend or someone that you trust, it's best to, take the initiative of like, inquiring more, or asking the questions, and taking the steps and actions towards understanding and learning more about that specific problem. And so I think those were the conversations that we had, and kind of the small actions towards that initial step of like, okay, if I know that there's a problem that I want to get involved with, and helping find the solution. So the first thing to start is like finding other people who have the same perspectives or beliefs and missions. And then from there, working together in participating in events and like engaging more of the community, and then growing that community that starts with like on campus, then goes to the community of Missoula, then to the state, and then so like much more. And so I think that was just kind of what we kind of talked about. And I think based on hearing the other facilitators and what they talked about is kind of the main thing that was said. So.
Awesome. Are there any other facilitators who didn't go yet? No? Awesome. Well, Phyllis just emailed me to say, to relay the message that thank you everyone for coming. And if you have any questions, I'm sure you could either message any of your facilitators today, or you can send me a message here under moderator and I can give you Phyllis's email. So thank you all so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoy any other sessions that you may be attending today.
Thanks, everybody.